Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you are watching this. Welcome back to the Since I Was Young podcast. With you as always, Alan and Ewan. Alan, how are you doing, sir? How did you enjoy the beautiful performance that was last night?
Aye, I'm doing good. It was an interesting one last night, but take it. Nice to score some goals finally.
Absolutely, man. I think from the stat that you put up, that you mentioned just last week there, that'll be now 5 clean sheets in a row. Again, I'll gladly take back, especially being the last game of the season as well. So happy days indeed. So on that note, for everyone who is watching this episode, episode 6, I believe, we're going to be doing just a quick review of the game that was held last night in Kirkcaldy. It was Raith Rovers versus Heart of Midlothian. The game ended 4-0 in a Hearts victory, which I'm sure that all Hearts fans will take that as a nice way to end the campaign after a very sort of questionable sort of season we've had so far, but we will take it. But before we get dived in and into our news segment, we would just like to thank everyone that's been getting involved through the YouTube page and the Twitter page as well. It's really appreciated, guys. But as always, if you have stumbled across this podcast and you are a Hearts fan, please think about subscribing and hit that like button as well. And if you want to get involved with both Alan and myself, you can check out our Twitter page. The link is in the description as always. And you can also get in contact with Alan with the link to his Twitter page as well, and including myself on the What Ewan's Doing football channel on YouTube. Right, so we'll get started with some news. Alan, I believe you have a few bits for us to share.
Yeah, a couple wee bits have come out in the last little while. I think a good place to start is the social media blackout
Yep.
that's currently ongoing at the moment. Essentially, it was started from Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock, I believe, to the midnight on Monday. Hearts joined up with a majority of clubs, Scotland and England, and other sports as well, not just football, in basically having a blackout of all social medias, not posting anything. That's official club accounts and players as well. Basically, just to kind of highlight to the social media platforms, the Instagrams, Twitters, and Facebooks of this world, basically saying that we've had enough of the abuse that we're getting, be it racial or just idiots
Yeah.
abusing players when they don't play well or whatever. And they basically said, if these social media platforms aren't going to do anything about the, the abuse that these guys receive, then well, the players and the clubs are just not going to use them. Whether it'll have that effect, I don't know. It's one of these things. It's a public statement to make, but yeah, you're always going to get an idiot, on their phone sending a message to a player if he's not had a good game or whatever. But it's a public gesture that they basically said, right, we're not standing for this anymore. So I support them, and
Absolutely, yeah.
it makes sense. So that's as I say, due to end on Monday at midnight. So depending on when this goes out, it might have already happened. It might still be ongoing. But basically means that club news is in short supply because they're not obviously posting anything online. They're posting stuff on their website still, but aside from that, nothing else. So yeah, we'll see how that plays out. There may well be quite a few announcements on Tuesday if they've obviously got things saved up over the weekend that they've not been able to put out. So that might be an interesting day. And the next part is just in relation to some transfer news. Obviously, end of the season, you'll probably find a lot more news will be about transfers than anything else because there's not much else to talk about. But Robbie's saying, now I don't know if you saw it, but Robbie made a remark. He was doing an interview and he basically said, we'll be bringing players in, but they won't all be Pelly.
Yeah.
Basically
Oh, yeah.
warning
I did hear
fans.
that. Yeah, I did hear that.
Yeah, basically making a sarcastic gesture saying that we'll bring players in, but they're not all going to be world beaters, which, I can understand it. I'm not saying he's wrong to say that, but I think when your track record includes players like Freer, Castanier, Popescu, I think it's a bit rich to talk about Pelly. I mean, Pelly could get into the Hearts team ahead of all those players, and he's 80 years old. So, it's it is what it is. But I think it's interesting because he said a couple of weeks ago, he said that we don't want to bring in 13, 14 players in one window again. And then the most recent one that I saw, but then the most recent one that I saw said him saying that we know we need players, we're not going to put a number on it. And I'm thinking, okay, you've gone back on what you said a couple of weeks ago, but we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. And I mean, I'm not asking for Robbie Neilson to go out and sign 6 players that are going to be instant first team players and make us instantly better. But if you're signing 5 players, you're hoping that at least 3 of them are going to be of the right standard. You could get away with having a couple that maybe don't work out, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who comes in, and probably as well more about who goes out as well.
Yes, most definitely. That'll
be interesting because he was speaking as well about. He made a comment saying that players that are going to leave have already been told that they're going to leave. Some players, so obviously all the players know whether they're going to be kept on or not. And some players have said that they don't want it to be made public yet. Obviously, we know Berra and Cochrane at the moment are the 2 that we know about. But I imagine there'll be a few others that will be told, look, you're free to go, or Stephen Naismith may be retiring. That seems to be gathering a bit more news since the last podcast that we did. It seems that he's maybe 50-50 whether he'll go or not. Which, again, as I said it last time, I wouldn't be surprised if he went. But we'll see how that plays out. In the same article, he spoke about Josh Ginnelly again, and said that they're talking to him about staying permanently, which is good.
Definitely.
Very good. It seems like, Ginnelly, he got injured and he went back down to Preston for, I don't know if it was surgery or recovery or whatever, but he's come back up to Edinburgh, obviously, since then. So it seems as if he's keen to stay here and we're keen to keep him. So provided he doesn't want stupid money, I'd be more than happy with that. And just the final one, again, it's the Andy Irving saga. Apparently the club have put a contract offer on the table for him and said, look, that's what we're offering you. I didn't actually know this, but apparently Andy Irving's agent is German. That's something that I heard. Whether it's accurate or not, I'm not sure. But it seems to be quite a widely thought thing that his representatives are German. So I've got a feeling that his agent is maybe looking at German clubs, because we've seen quite a lot of British players going to Germany, like young British players.
Yeah, that's true.
Particularly from England, obviously, that have gone over to Germany and done quite well for themselves. So he might be looking at that as an avenue for him. But yeah, it's getting a bit beyond the joke now, to be honest. If I was at the club, if I was Joe Savage or Robbie Neilson or whoever is making these decisions, I'd be saying, look, there's a contract on the table for you. We'll give you until next week to sign it. If you don't want to sign it, that's it. Put a time limit on it, because we can't hang about. Like, we're not in a position where we're able to. If he wants to go, let him go. That's it, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh no, exactly. And we will talk a tiny bit more detail about him as we go along from the performance last night. But yeah, it is just getting because this has been dragging out for nearly a month, for a few months now.
More so, I think. Yeah, it's been a couple of months at least. It's just getting a bit old now, really. I'm at the stage where early on it was, I wanted him to stay, and I'm like, I hope that he does. But the thing is, as well, the club are not innocent in this as well. He's a young player that should have had a new contract 6 months ago. The fact that he's been allowed to have 6 months remaining on his contract, and the fact that if he doesn't sign, he leaves for nothing, doesn't reflect well in the club. But
it doesn't, no.
Yeah, at this point, you're just thinking, right, do you know what? If you want to be here and you're a Hearts fan as much as you say that you are and you claim to be, which he is, there's no doubt about it. But if his agent's turning his head and going looking somewhere else, then he's welcome to it at the end of the day.
No, exactly. And well, like you said yourself, we'll see how it sort of pans out for the next sort of few weeks or so. Hopefully it doesn't drag out as much as it has to. So heading off from the news, as we said, our main topic will be from the game last night against Raith Rovers that was held in Kirkcaldy. I think we were both speaking to each other last night, Alan. It was a relatively classic slow start from Hearts. Again, I think the first goal came, well, when it came from us, it was after 13 minutes, I think it was. So that's pretty standard from Hearts. Yeah, like after the first sort of 5 minutes, from what I was watching, obviously this game didn't mean much to Hearts as such, like but obviously you could see from the get go that Raith really wanted it, um, obviously they are still in a was it the playoff spot, but they've now got an extra game to actually play now. But from the first 10 sort of the minutes, I thought that Rafe kind of like sort of were trying to show that, like I did have a funny feeling that they might have actually went on to press Hearts for the whole game. But obviously the first the goal and the goal scorer, which will remain nameless. It was a well like sort of been taken sort of the goal as well, like especially from the pass from Smith as well. I don't know how he found him or how he knew that he was going to actually move in to the right, in to the box as well. But
Yeah. I mean, just when you were talking about the start of the game, I noticed, and they were speaking about it in the commentary. They were saying that Raith started in the same shape as Hearts, played three at the back, and I don't really know why they did that because they've not really done that at all. Recently, they play four at the back. It's the way that they play, and it's why they've kind of had a bit of a solid kind of end to the season because they're playing a certain way. So I don't know whether they had injuries or maybe McGlynn thought that was the way to get out of Hearts, set up in the same system, but it didn't work for them. They did well, like you say, in the first 5-10 minutes, but I think once they were maybe hoping to take advantage of us having a slow start. Maybe that's what it was. But yeah, I mean, it was. Were you happy with the team that Hearts put out? I know there was no Nanduli on the bench, or I don't even think he's in the squad. So
yeah. I mean, obviously, I mean, we've not had the same sort of shape or team for probably any more than about a few was it at the games, but I quite like that the fact that you said it last week yourself, Alan, that this sort of shape that we've got and the players as well that we're playing now in in certain the roles as well, it's starting to actually work. Obviously, I know that it's only been like the last 3 or 4 red games that we've actually done this sort of shape, but at the same time, you can see sort of hints of it that it is starting to actually work. I mean, to be honest, I didn't have any sort of complaints about the starting lineup as such. I mean, one thing actually that I didn't actually mention to yourself last night, I kind of part of me kind of wanted was it the Bobby to start? Was it in the goal? But no, like I mean, in general, I think you could probably say that that's probably our strongest starting side. Some folk might disagree, but at the same time, if we do bring the shape into effect when we go into the next campaign, then and if we improve upon things, if we bring in a few sort of was it the players as well to add to that, then hopefully it should be a good start to next year.
yeah, no, definitely. I just as we'll talk about the goal scorer of two of the goals, I'll also hold my hands up and say Andy Halliday seems to have found a home at left back. Seems to be doing very well. So yeah, I mean, you have your opinions of Gary Mackay-Steven, and I have mine. You have your opinions of Andy Halliday, and I have
Just
mine.
hide. I'll just hide
So, no,
while you speak.
I'll happily admit that Andy Halliday seems to have looked pretty solid at left back. Good competition for Kingsley when he comes back as well. So that's
Definitely,
a
yeah.
bonus. That's a bonus. But yeah, no, the shape, like we'll go obviously we'll go into more detail when we do like further episodes of this, but
Yeah.
we just looked a lot more confident. And I think Robbie said it, I can't remember if it was before or after the game, they were talking about it, and he said it helps John Souttar because it means that he can slot in and play the ball out from the back, and he looks comfortable in a three, which is good. And I hope, and I said it before, I hope that we play this way next season because the movement seems to be really good. And I noticed that for a few of the goals, the front three in particular, I think it was Boyce and Henderson and Gary Mackay-Stevens. Sorry, I had a bit of a mind blank there. The three of them, particularly Henderson and Gary Mackay-Stevens, seemed to be sort of swapping and changing between themselves, which I thought worked really well. Probably played a big part in the first goal. Gary Mackay-Stevens just, like you say, getting on the end of the pass from Smith. I actually originally thought it was Henderson that played the pass to him, but I looked on the BBC website and it's Michael Smith got the assist. So yeah, no, good goal from Gary Mackay-Stevens, to be fair. Good feet in the box and good finish. He's a player that seems to be playing with confidence, which is a massive positive to have.
That's literally what I was about to go on there. And again, I can't believe that I'm saying this as well, but again, something that I agreed with Michael Stewart last night. He seems to be a player that thrives when he's got a lot of confidence in him. I don't think, you can take that as a good thing or a bad thing. Like, I'm not sure if that's something to have, but he seems to be the kind of player that when he's at the confidence levels are high, he seems to play fantastically. And I think with the Cali game, that they gave him a massive sort of high, and he's carried that through to last night's game as well. So again, just I'll touch on it quite quick. Again, my view hasn't changed entirely, but where he sits in terms of me personally wanting him to to be here and start for Hearts, when it comes to the next sort of campaign, it's starting to go slowly up. But again, it just comes back to it's only been 2 games that he's really done good.
Yeah, I mean, just briefly before we move on to the next part, he said after the game, because they asked him, you've had a good last couple of games, and he said pretty much the same thing. He said, I'm feeling good and fit and confident, and he said, I'm getting used to the players that I'm playing alongside and the way the manager wants them to play. So he's just taking a bit of time to settle in, but obviously, like I said before, 17 games for him to get his first goal, and then he scores 3 in 2 games. You're going, fair enough. Could have had more last night.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry, 4. He could have had more. Could have had more last night as well. That's the thing. He was doing well.
Oh yeah, no, because again, I watched you and me watched the full game last night, and then I watched the highlights this morning again, and I counted we could have easily been 6, 7, maybe 8 last night. So, but even if it was only 1-0, it's still a win at the end of the day. I don't think there was much else from the first half. So, shall we move swiftly forward to the second half, or?
Yeah. I think just off talking about the second half, when it started, Raith made a substitution at half time. Obviously changed their shape because they obviously thought, well, playing 3 at the back didn't work for the first half, and we pretty much, aside from the first 5-10 minutes, pretty much strolled it. So yeah, they changed their shape at half time to try and get something out of the game, because they obviously needed, like you were saying at the start, they needed to win a lot more than we did.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good to see, them at least kind of changing something and having a go and seeing, well, that didn't work. I don't know why they played 3 at the back to start with.
Yeah.
But it was an experiment that didn't work, and they fixed it at half time.
Yeah. I'm all for trying to sort of experiment new sort of ways and shapes for the team. We have been crying out for it all year, but if you're going to do that on the last game of the season where you need to actually win, it's not I mean, I'd say that's a bit more sort of risky than not. No.
Yeah, no, definitely. As I say, I don't know why they played three at the back because it's not something that certainly when I've seen highlights. I mean, I've not exactly been a Raith enthusiast this season, but when I've seen highlights of them, they've not played three at the back, not that I can remember. So
Not that I
for
remember. No,
whatever
no.
reason, yeah, for whatever they certainly didn't play the last time we played them anyway. But yeah, they obviously thought they could exploit something with Hearts that obviously didn't work, but they changed it at half time and we went on and scored what three more goals in the second half. So obviously, whatever shape they changed to didn't work either.
No, exactly. I mean, just before we go on to the second goal, I mean, the goal that Henderson actually scored, in my opinion, that well, like at that point it should have been 3-0. That chance that he had beforehand, which it was kind of in this similar position that he was in when he did score his goal. Like I said, but tell yourself that I thought he should have had to finish that. I thought because I know he tried to go for more sort of was it at the power more than sort of was it at the placement, but from my sort of at the point of view when you're at when you're at the same amount of distance as at the penalty spot, you should be betting those away.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, definitely. I think I gave a lot more credit to Jamie McDonald
Yeah,
than
no,
to
definitely.
Henderson, to be honest. He sort of palmed it away and then caught it after, and I'm like, fair enough. Henderson should have scored it, but it was a very, very good save.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
But yeah, no, it was good. Like I messaged you just as the second goal went in. I says, it's good that it was so quick after he missed that one
Yeah, no,
because
absolutely, yeah.
you don't want him, you don't want him thinking about that missed chance for too long. And it's good that he managed to kind of put it right with a good goal for the second one.
Yeah, at the once again, it was kind of sort of similar to Gary Mackay's sort of had the goal at the other end, like sort of like he placed it like sort of read quite well, and it had curled in, so it was quite a good was it at the finish, and not so long after that, there was the very, very, very questionable penalty and sending off. Because I'll be quite sort of frank. When I first saw it happen, I thought it was a definite, definite was it at the penalty. But obviously on closer inspection, it turns out that he didn't even actually touch him. Not at
No,
all. Like literally not one bit.
no, well, that's the thing. Like when I know you're saying you thought it was definitely a penalty. When I saw it, I said that's never a penalty in
Really?
a million years. But yeah. But the thing was, the referee was so quick. It was almost like
Yeah.
he was 100% sure that it was. And I thought, okay, he's given a penalty, that'll do. And then he sends the guy off, and I'm thinking, what? I was like,
Yeah.
Henderson. I mean, I haven't watched it back to tell you the truth, but from what I remember, Henderson just sort of kicked the floor or tripped over his own feet. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I can, from the way the referee was looking at it, I can understand why he gave it, but it's just one of those. That's like we've got away with one there because I didn't think it was.
Again, as well, one of the more, I mean, something that was even stranger than the decision for the penalty as well. Why the fuck was Craig Halkett stepping up on that? Like, you
I
sent me
have
the
no idea.
text. You sent me the text. And then I sort of looked up and went, "Hi, why the fuck is he taking a penalty?"
The
It was
thing,
just a strange one. It was a really weird one.
yeah, the thing for me, and what made it very strange is that we had Boyce, who's been taking penalties all season,
Yeah.
on the pitch at that point. You had Gary Mackay-Steven, who's finding confidence and form there. I'm sure he would have wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody actually, something I didn't actually take into account was that Craig Halkett used to take penalties for Livingston,
Right.
and Halkett hasn't scored a goal this season yet. So he's maybe looked at it and went, I want to score this. And you can see he was confident. Like he hit it really well. I sent it to you, he hit it too well. And that's the thing. But after the game, I actually was thinking about this and I said it to you not long after that I remember Robbie saying players that are leaving have been told that they're leaving. So maybe Halkett's looking at that going, well, I know I'm away, so I want a goal before I go. Possible.
Yeah, it is
Um,
possible because you brought it up again last night. Because obviously, I didn't even think about it that way because I always thought, like, I mean, I've I've spoke more highly than not about Halkett, where I think, I mean, because we've had him for like what 2, 3 years now, or is it even going back 4 years?
no, I think it's three.
Three
We've
years,
signed
right?
that many players, but I
Yeah,
think it is three.
true. But like, he was one of those players where I thought that he just needs that one good year where then he'll start to get more sort of was it comfortable, like more sort of at the better as well. But I don't like, this is the weird thing. I don't think he's done enough for him to like establish himself as a really good defender, but at the same time, think he's I don't think he's not done enough for him to Hearts to go to him and say, right, we don't think it's actually like, was it working out? Because I wouldn't say he's consistent, but at the same time, you could probably do a lot worse in that sense. But obviously, going back to what you were about to say there, obviously we've been linked with Motherwell's defender Declan de Gallagher for quite a few months, and I mean, you gave me the ultimatum last night, whether it was to keep Halkett or if you had the option to bring was it the Gallagher in, and I never thought about it that way, but I think I would be more inclined to actually bring him in, like because obviously, like he's quite a good defender. He's more or less a regular for Scotland as well, yeah.
He's on the fringes of it.
Yeah, so
But I think the thing is for me, I'm not I'm not a lover of Halkett. He's one of these guys that being next to John Souttar and seeing John Souttar playing again, Souttar absolutely strolled that game last night. He was outstanding. But any defender next to John Souttar just looks average in context. And I've just not seen enough from Halkett this season. He's one of those players that in a league that Hearts should be and are better than everybody else in terms of players, and where we are in the table obviously shows that. Halkett should have been one of those defenders that, like Souttar last night, should be strolling through games. But Halkett just looks, he's just quite slow and he's just always kind of backwards. And I'm not, obviously, you're not going to go out and find another John Souttar in the market, let's be honest. But I think Halkett, I don't think he's got any better since he's been at Hearts. I think that's the thing. I think that for me is what I look at and I go, well, have you improved since we brought you in? I don't think so. But I mean, Robbie, I think it was last week or the week before, Robbie Nielsen was touting him for the Scotland squad, saying, if he gets fit and confident, then he could be in there. And to me, that makes me think, well, Robbie doesn't have any plans of letting him go. But he's not the worst defender that we've got at the club, let's be honest. But I'm not going to go into it too much because we'll do a whole review of squads and
of course,
things like that in the future. But he's not a player I would cry if he went, put it that way. Providing was good enough.
Yeah, no. That's fair enough, Alan. But like we said, we'll go into a bit more detail next week when we do our season review and a few other things as well. But we'll go on to possibly his last ever the goal for Hearts. It was a pretty sort of straightforward the finish from Naismith last night. Again, from what I rewatched this morning, the Raith sort of defense just looked very sort of the panicky. They like they were being quite sort of reactive rather than sort of productive. And initially, it fell to Halliday. He played it in through Boyce, and Boyce managed to get his back turned and then found Naismith and then just slotted it home. Yeah, I mean, again, it comes I'm kind of split on it. We talked about it quite in depth last week, but and I thought about it just the other night as well. Do you think that it could maybe if it would be worth actually doing this, but do you think maybe that Naismith could probably maybe for the next campaign, he could possibly be a player and some sort of coach in the setup as well? Because again, I think, if you're gonna look at him as a as a was it Ed person, I think he has the qualities and the presence to actually be quite a good was it Ed coach. So do you think that's something that maybe Robbie could be considering as such, or?
I think he might. I think he might. I mean, it's if Naismith's going to stay next season, he'll be a player to bring off the bench. Like
Yeah,
he's
I
not
know,
going to start. He's not going
100%.
to
Yeah.
start. I think just go back to the goal.
Mm,
It showed, like I always say about Boyce, that he's one of the most intelligent players that we have in the team in terms of his movement and his ability. And Naismith is the same.
mm,
You can see it, the experience that they both have. Obviously, Wayne Boyce being a Northern Ireland international, he's played at a good level.
yeah.
Boyce before he came to Hearts. Naismith obviously played in England, played for Scotland multiple times as well. So they're two very experienced players, but also they're very intelligent. And the goal, Naismith's goal, and also Gary Mackay-Stevens' goal at the end, the link-up play between them in the build-up to it shows, one of them Boyce came deep and Naismith was in front of him, and then it's just that they combine very well together. But no, to answer your question, I think Naismith is the sort of person that he'll know when it's time to call it a day,
Yeah.
and he won't hang about if he thinks next season's going to be too much for him. He'll be on the phone to Robbie saying, "Get me on the coaching team. I'd rather do that." If he wants to be a player and a coach, yeah, I mean it's something they can do. I don't doubt it, but we'll wait and see. As I say, I think that's probably one of the things that we'll hear about fairly early on. I think will be Naismith's future.
Yeah, I mean, because going back to I mean, because we probably won't have to go into too much detail about the last sort of Ed goal that we scored, but even just for the performance that Naismith had to put in, even though he was only on for a short sort of space of time, it was a desire to get on the ball still at his age at 35, and yet I still saw him going back to help out, like the back line. He was getting himself high up the park as well. And this is what I kind of was had to put it down to. Obviously, I know that there'll be sort of was it the players and strikers was it more specifically that will be sort of was it the better than was it Naismith as he is now, but it just comes back to would you I'd like to still have him in the actual team, from my own sort of personal view. I still like to have him in the team just based alone on the presence that he does sort of was Ed give. And maybe you can as if that affects the whole sort of game itself, but in a way that it does. I don't know what it is about him. Every time that comes on, and like you said as well, Alan, just based on the experience that he's actually got and the clubs that he's was it played for as well, but you just think he makes a difference in his own way. It might not affect the whole sort of was it the game as such, but he does make a difference, and part of me kind of still wants some to have him there. And yeah, you're absolutely right in the sense that he won't be anywhere near a starter, in terms for the games that we'll do next season. But just to have him there on the bench, I would like to see it. But again, if he thinks it's time to hang up his boots, then that's absolutely fine as well. And plus, he owns the pizza restaurant as well, so that must take up a lot of time in itself, and also.
Very true, very true. Give himself more time to do that.
Oh, I would love that.
Yeah, no, I like Naismith. Don't get me wrong, I like him, and that's why I said, beforehand, I'm not fussed whether he chooses to go or not. I think the biggest positive if he does choose to go is the wages that we'll save, because he's got to be on a decent. I mean, there's not many Hearts players that will be on a huge amount of money, but in terms of context, he'll probably be at the top end of the scale in terms of earnings. Well, exactly. So if he chooses to go, and that's his call, it's his decision, and I just hope that the club get it right in terms of recruitment. This summer is huge.
Yeah,
if a
no, it
player,
is.
yeah, if a player like Naismith's going to go, then he needs to be replaced by someone who, I'm not saying can play the same way, but needs to be of a good quality rather than a young player that we can work on. It needs to be someone maybe 24, 25
Yeah,
that's ready to go.
absolutely.
But yeah, no, Naismith, he was on for half an hour last night. Did very well.
Absolutely. Since you were speaking of the wages there, we'll go on to another sort of topic that we talked about last night. If it would be sort of quite was it the beneficial for the Heart side dead going into next season. Shay Logan. It's a very, very, very sort of difficult one. Especially when he's only had 5 or 6 the games to actually was it Ed to prove himself, and he's been solid at that sort of right sort of the wing back. I wouldn't have when he first sort of came in, obviously being the age that he actually is, you would have thought, he may be all right, he's there to do one sort of job, so he may do all right, but he's done pretty darn good. If you were Robbie right now, would you was it to keep him on, or do you think just based on the age that he's at, do you think that might be a sign for Hearts in general to kind of change our sort of view on how we do sort of transfers as such and try and get more younger sort of talent in?
I mean, I understood the signing of Shay Logan when we made it. He's, like you said, he's done very well for 5 games. He's come in and he's solved the issue that we had. And Michael Smith's been playing in the centre of defence next to Suter and Halkett, and he's grown into that. So I think it depends what Robbie wants to do next season, whether he sticks with the system we're playing just now, or if he chooses to go back to a back four, which he might. He might do. But if it was up to me, if I was in a position to say, yeah, get him in, I'd have a conversation with him at least. I think even if we offered him a 1 year contract, if it's any more than a year, I'd be worried.
Yeah.
But also it depends on Cammy Logan, the young fullback that we've got. It depends if Robbie looks at him and says, right, you're ready to be back up to Michael Smith, or you're ready to play, then you might think, well, do we really need Shay Logan? But I personally think we will offer him a contract. Shay Logan, I think we will, because I think Robbie will. I think Robbie will. I think Robbie's looking for. People might not like me saying this, but Robbie's looking for experienced players at the moment, and I think Shay Logan, he's out of contract at Aberdeen in the summer. Again, depends on wages, and if he wants a lot of money, then tell him to bolt. But I have a feeling that Robbie will speak to him about staying. I wouldn't complain. Similarly with how I feel about Naismith, I wouldn't complain if he stayed. I wouldn't complain if he left. Depending on the thing is, as long as whoever comes in to play there is good enough, I'm happy with that. And if Shay Logan is that person, then fair play to him. He's not done himself any harm.
Not at all, Alan. I mean, like I said, for just the fact that he's only been played 6 games and he's managed to kind of establish himself in that sort of role, he's done brilliantly. And obviously as well, it kind of falls down to if we play in the same sort of setup as we are now, because effectively, if you are for example, if you are sort of playing in a 4-4-2 and you revert to a free at the back and then to sort of the wing backs as well, if you've got 2 left backs in general, one of them can probably be sort of one of the left hand side sort of centre backs, and then have the other one on the wing. But you've got to think as well, just in that sort of role as well. By the time next year comes, we'll have Smith and we'll have Cammy Logan, and if we keep Shay Logan as well, and not to forget as well, we've still got Jamie Brandon as well on the books, haven't we? So, what I mean? Yeah. It's that's 4. Was it the players for that role? And obviously, I just think in general, again, I wouldn't be disappointed if we kept him, but at the same time, I think if you're going to spend a wage on somebody, I think you can either like sort of like invest that in another sort of like, was it sort of a role on the park that could maybe be a bit more sort of the beneficial for us as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah, no, definitely, definitely. I mean, I think personally, I think quite a lot of our young players will go out on loan again next season.
yeah,
Again, people won't like saying that, but a lot of the young players that we've loaned out this season haven't played at the clubs they've been at because of COVID and obviously the leagues being stopping and starting below the championship, like League One and League Two. They've stopped and started, and Cammy Logan was on loan at Cove Rangers, and he's barely played for them because their season got finished and then it got started. Well, their season got suspended, then started again. So I think this year has been a bit wasted for some of those players. The only one I know that's playing consistently is the goalkeeper Harry Stone. He's doing really well
which
apparently.
no, absolutely.
But yeah, I think Robbie. I mean, Robbie said it pretty much that a lot of the young players will go out on loan, including Finlay Pollock, who got an appearance as well last night
Yeah,
for a little bit again. So yeah, people won't like it. They want Robbie to play all these young players. They want him to throw them all in, and I'm in that camp as well. I want to see young players playing for Hearts, but if they're not going to improve us, then you're sort of going, well, they're better going and playing at a level where they will improve that team, and that for me is kind of how I would approach it. And then maybe, depending on where we finish in the league next season, if it's top six, if it's top four, we're established back in the top flight of Scottish football, then you can start putting the young players in and going, right, play Cammy Logan at right back because you could play, well, for argument's sake, you could play Peter Haring next to him, like in the midfield, and then you could play like Gary Mackay-Steven ahead of him on the right. And that's two experienced players next to a young player or around a young player. And that's good. You want the young players to have players that they can learn from, but also it's like a safety thing. Like if a young player makes a mistake, then it's like, okay, well, don't worry about it. You'll get somebody going over and putting their arm around them and going, look, it's not a big deal, don't worry. But now I don't think that would work at the moment for Hearts where they're at. I think Robbie wants experienced players because he wants an experienced base to then be able to put young players into. But I mean, we'll go into that a little bit more in future ones. I don't want to be sitting here talking about that now.
Just to round things off, we will do a quick player sort of the rating. I've not actually wrote mine down, but I will do it off the top of my head, was it as a sign as we watched the game last night. So I've got the lineup in front of me here. So we'll start off with the Gordon. He had fuck all to do last night. Genuinely, literally not a single thing. So I'm gonna give him a 6, just on that fact as well. Like, it's not to say that he played bad at all, but it was just based on the fact that he didn't have a lot to actually do.
Yeah, I gave him a 5 purely for that reason.
We both thought the exact same thing. Smith didn't look sort of his usual self last night. He made quite a few mistakes at sort of throughout the first half. I mean, granted, he did get up the goal last night, but apart from that, he didn't do an awful lot.
No, I think it was a quiet one for him. There were a few players that were actually a lot quieter than usual, but
yeah,
I think Raith targeted Smith. I think they looked at him and went, right, he's not normally a centre back. So they had quick players running at him, and he was stretched a little bit. I mean, he did okay. He wasn't overly exposed, but he wasn't as good as he can be.
Yeah,
I gave him a 5.5.
Yeah, I was a tiny bit more generous just based on the fact that he did set up the goal, and I they gave him a 6. So pretty much. Halkett, based on the penalty miss and just pretty much from what we've been talking about as well beforehand, I gave him a 5. I know that sounds quite harsh, but the score kind of was representative per performance. Again, he looked quiet. He didn't do an awful lot last night, and to wrap it up sort of with the penalty miss as well. It just didn't look good for him that night. So
Yeah, I've got the same. I gave him a 5. There's something to be said for having the confidence to step up and take a penalty, but if you're going to be confident to step up and take a penalty, don't absolutely rattle it off the crossbar. Put it in the bottom corner or put your laces through it and put it in the corner. Don't rattle it off the bar. But yeah, I mean, he got a 5 from me. He didn't. Again, it was like Gordon and Suter and Smith. They didn't have a huge amount to do, but yeah, I gave him a 5 for that.
Yeah, I agree on that one. So going on to John Suter as such, I gave him a 7. Again, as you just mentioned there, he didn't have a lot to actually do, but more so in the second half when he did get the ball for the second half again, he just looked calm. He looked so composed as well. Like he just looks so relaxed. And again, we've said it 2 times, like at the ready, and I'll say it a third time. It's just so nice to have him back. It really is.
Yeah, definitely. Just like you say, in the second half in particular, they were playing so much further up the pitch, and Suter on the ball was passing it into the midfield, passing it down the lines, and he just looked safe, and he did really, really well. I gave him a 6.5, but I'll have to.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. And very was it the competent and a great rack as well. Right, so we'll move on to the wing backs and all. Shea Logan for Shea. I put a 6 again. It was just based. I kind of compared his performance to Halliday's. I kind of thought Halliday did more than Shea, like sort of on the left hand side. I mean, I thought Halliday as well was a bit more sort of productive and trying to get on the actual at the ball more. But it was not to actually say that he had a bad game at all. I just thought he didn't get sort of involved at as much. So that's why I gave him a 6 on that one.
Yeah, me too. I've got him down as a 6 as well.
So
pretty standard performer, but yeah.
Nice one. Next one. We'll go on to as we just said, Andy Halliday as well. 10. Next one. So we're going to Mac. sorry. I'll come back. Yes. Never, ever gets old. So yeah. Halliday again. No. 2. It's not sort of was it at the being his was it at the biggest at the fan. I think in retrospect, I did think you said it at the start. Since he's moved back into that sort of wing back role, I think he's done. I think from the 5 performances that he's had, I think in comparison to the in comparison to the other 22 games that he's played, I think those 5 games he's played so much was it the better. I gave Andy Halliday, I gave him a 6.75. I didn't think he was. I didn't think he was a 6.5, but again, I didn't think he'd kind of just nudged it to a 7. But since it is him, Ken Watt, fuck it, he gets a 10. Aye.
Well, I gave him a 6.5. I gave him a 6.5.
Shocking.
He just looks like I'm saying before. When he was in the middle of the park, it just didn't work, I don't think. No, when he's been played at the left back spot, he's done really well. Yeah, I gave him a 6.5.
No, that is fair enough. So on average, 25 out of 10. McAneff. Again, we mentioned him last night. I mean, we could probably put them in the same group. We both thought that both him and Haring didn't have overly convincing performances last night. I don't think they looked. I'd say more so McAneff played a tiny bit better than Haring, but I think particularly for the first half, they both didn't look particularly sharp. I know that they slightly improved as the game went on. So I actually gave them both a 6.
All right. Yeah. I think I said it to yourself as well. A lot of the game seemed to be kind of played out wide. It was more like the wing backs and Gary Mackay-Steven on the right and Henderson out on the left, boys kind of drifting out that way. So Haring and McKenna, they both didn't really have as much of the ball as they usually do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gave them both 5.5 purely because they were
Fair enough,
quiet,
yeah.
but I'll happily give it sixes. But yeah, and then McKenna got taken off, subbed off after a wee while. So
Mm.
yeah, it was a quiet one for both of them, but I love that partnership between the two of them. I think
Yeah.
it's a partnership that can go forward into next season if he plays that way. But yeah, they didn't impose themselves in the game like they have been able to do before.
Yeah, no,
So yeah,
that is agreed. So we'll move on to the number 10 role as such for the boys. I gave him a 7.5 again, even though he didn't score. And even though Gary Mackay-Stevens was pretty close to scoring a hat trick, just based on the chances that the boys have, he possibly could have scored one last night as well. It was just unfortunate that he didn't get a chance to get on to the goal sheet last night. But the reason for the rating, again, you've mentioned it both last week and sort of now as well. He's just such an intelligent player. Obviously, I said at the start of the season that I wasn't his hugest fan, but at the same time, as the time has went on, he started to kind of was it had to grow on me as such. I think for the chances that he's missed, that you'd automatically find that he would put away, and the sort of harder chances that he's had, he's just putting them away absolutely fine. So, but yeah, no, I think if there's anything to take for him personally into next season, I think it's just more being a bit more critical when it comes to simpler sort of chances, I think. But he played well, and that's why I gave him a 7.5.
yeah, I've got him down as a 7. As I say, the only thing he didn't do was score,
Yeah.
but he gave himself chances to get them. So it's it was a typical boys performance. Really, I rate him incredibly highly, as you know. He's we'll probably have a conversation in a future podcast about who our player of the season is, but yeah, I think Boyce is up there for me.
We don't even have to do one, mate, because you already know who's going to be my player of the season.
Yeah. Oh, Andy Halliday, 25 out of 10. Going back to that, Boyce did a Boycey performance. It is what it is. It is what it is. And I'm annoyed that there's not a game next week, because if there was, he'd probably go out and score a hat trick. The number of chances he missed in that game, but I did well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Moving on to the last two, Henderson. Even though he scored and they had quite a few chances to score last night, I only gave him a 6.5. I thought it's not been the best sort of, was it at the performance that he's gave. Just based off the Alloa game, I think, because he played so well, most Hearts fans will think that there's kind of an expectation now where you kind of expect him to actually play like that all the time now. But again, I didn't think he had himself a bad game. I just think he could have scored two again, maybe even a hat trick as well, on that. But yeah, so that's why I gave him a 6.5.
Yeah, I've got him down as a 6.5 as well.
There you go.
He's certainly a player that Robbie Nielsen seems to like, and I hope that when Robbie's talking about young players going out on loan next season, I hope Henderson's not one of them.
Yeah,
because I think he can offer something. But again, if we bring players in that are ready now to play, then I wouldn't have any problem with Henderson going out on loan. But yeah, he did okay last night. He wasn't fantastic, but scored a goal, won a debatable penalty. Yeah, 6.5 for me as well.
That's quite fair. And lastly, and as much as it pains me to say it as well, he is my pick for man of the match as well. You cannot deny that. Mackay Stevens obviously got 2 goals as well. Again, he played, if not slightly better than he did against Tynecastle. I gave him an 8.5. There's not much to sort of say on it as such. Just I hope the performances will to carry on into the next the campaign, and if he plays like that, then I'll be absolutely delighted. So
Yeah, I gave him an 8. All round good performance. Link up play was good. Finished the goals he took well. Yeah, no, it was like you say. If that's a confident Mackay Steven and we can carry him forward into next season playing in a confident way, then it's an asset. But yeah, he was certainly man of the match last night by a distance, to be honest.
So there you go. Gary Mackay-Stephens, man of the match 2 weeks in a row. Who would have thought it, eh? So this has been episode 6 of the Since I Was Young podcast. Once as always, guys, thank you very much for watching. It is always appreciated. And if you do know anybody who is a Hearts fan and is not subscribed, get them subscribed, because we really appreciate the effort that you guys have made as well so far. We want to get to 30 subs, so please, it is annoying us. It's on 29. Please, just somebody hit it, and we'll be delighted, guys. But as always, again, if you want to get in contact with us, you can. The link for our Twitter page is always in the description and on screen as well. And if you want to get in contact with us both, you can as well through Alan's personal Twitter page and my YouTube channel, What Ewan's Doing. So lastly, guys, thank you very much for watching, and Alan, always a pleasure, sir.
Absolutely, sir, absolutely. Hopefully more goals to come next season and more games like that.
Let's hope so, and no more relegation battles as well. So we can only hope on that one. So once again, guys, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye for now.